Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail haul for you here. It's actually not that little, and it's the last mail haul of the week, so let's hope it has some good stuff in it. I have an actual pretty strong spider sense that it does, uh, but the packages are all over the place. There's manila envelopes, there are white cardboard envelopes, there are vacuum pressed things, there's a little box that I know is going to please me, and there's also this first one, which is airmailed from Singapore. So it's not any publisher that I usually deal with. I am swamped enough just dealing with American books. So what could this be? I have no idea. Let's see. Uh, okay, there's no pub sheet. It's a pretty thing. It's from Ethos Books. It's by Linda Collins, and it's called Lost Adjustment. It's got two hummingbirds on the cover there. Uh, let's see here. Lost Adjustment is a mother's recount of her account. Recounting or account. Recount is what you do with an election that you suspect was stolen. Of her 17-year-old daughter's suicide. In the wake of Victoria McLeod's passing, death, I think is meant there, death. She didn't. Anyway, she's left behind a remarkable journal in her laptop of the final 4 months of her life. Linda Collins, her mother, has woven these into her memoir, which is at once cohesive yet fragmented, reflecting a survivor's state of mind after devastating loss. The book involves the endless whys, the journey of Linda Collins and her husband in honoring Victoria, and the impossible question of what drove their daughter to this irretrievable act. Sounds good. Grim, but good. Wow. Okay, so what have we got for our note here? We don't have a pub sheet. Okay. All right. The note starts off poorly. The note starts us off on just a simple flat-footed misunderstanding, but that's okay. I get this quite a bit. The first line is, "Thank you for agreeing to review Lost Adjustment." I absolutely did not. I absolutely did not. I don't even officially agree to review books when I have editors asking me to do that for money. I don't remember the exchange, but I am absolutely certain from a lifetime of habit that the only thing I did was say, I am perfectly willing to read it. You can feel free to send it. And all of you out there who may be representing books or authors, who may be publicists at small publishers, that is my answer. You don't even need to ask. If you have a book that you want me to, for instance, open and talk about on camera, and also consider reviewing, feel free to send it. My answer is absolutely yes. I read an enormous amount. So I'm making a blanket yes to publicists and publishers is not me writing checks that my butt can't cash. I will actually read the book, but I under no circumstances agreed to review it. But let's see here. It's a very special book for the Ethos Book team, and we hope it'll move you as much as it has moved us. Well, it certainly sounds like a moving book. So I'll just tuck this in here. It's compliments of Ethos Books, but there is no the little note here doesn't appear to give me an email, so I'll have to look through my email and see if I can find a contact here so that I can clear up the misunderstanding in the first line of this note. But that's okay. The book sounds good, and it comes to me from Singapore, so I don't really know. This is an advanced reading copy, but I don't really know anything about Ethos Books, so I don't know if they're in America. I don't know if they have a distributor. I don't know if this is available to a U.S. audience. But I can't help but think that it would be a powerfully, like that note says, moving experience, especially if you are connected with this kind of a story. If you are, for instance, the parent, God forbid, the parents of a young person who has committed suicide, it sounds like this book will make you bawl your eyes out, and probably it will become a favorite of yours. I wouldn't be surprised. I shall see. I will read it. I don't know anything about its release dates or its availability, so I don't know when I'll read it. But let's see. Let's move on. I don't think we have any more overseas candidates here. I think we're just set with... Oh, okay, great. Fantastic. All right, this is a 2020 book. It's really tempting to me. I'm not reading any 2020 books in 2019, but this one really tempts me, and I don't need to go through it in great detail because we already saw it. We saw it just the other day. This is The Apartment by Teddy Wayne, or Apartment, no the. This is Apartment by Teddy Wayne, in which a youngish man who is essentially seems to be a parasite pretty much everywhere. He's living as an illegal squatter or subletter in a rent-controlled apartment, and he's sort of malingering at university. Let me see what can we do here. Oh well, I read you when we talked about this yesterday, the day before. I read you the pub sheet, but I didn't read you the back of the book, and it appears the back of the book is different. So let's go through that. In 1996, the unnamed narrator of Teddy Wayne's apartment is attending the MFA writing program at Columbia on his father's dime and living in an illegal sublet of a rent-stabilized apartment. Okay, that part's the same. Feeling guilty about his good fortune, he offers his spare bedroom rent-free to Billy, a talented, charismatic classmate from the Midwest, eking out a hand-to-mouth existence in Manhattan. The narrator's rapport with Billy develops into a friendship he's never had over a lifetime of holding people at arm's length, hovering at the periphery, feeling fundamentally defective. But their living arrangement, not to mention their radically different upbringings, breeds tensions neither man could predict. And I can pretty much predict that this will be a very enjoyable novel, probably well put together, probably with long passages that are really good. We read one such passage in a page 112 tag that I did just recently. But I'm sure that the book is full of passages like that because this author has never failed to please me. And that's kind of amazing. When it comes to contemporary fiction, that's kind of amazing. And it's the ultimate recommendation that I can give. Certainly the ultimate recommendation the book can have from me is that I now associate this name, Teddy Wayne, with a novel that I'm really going to enjoy. A novel that is not going to insult my intelligence. A novel that is not going to infuriate me with stupid or threadbare contrivances. And a novel that's going to take its own ideas seriously. That is wonderful. If that actually happens, that is wonderful. Whenever it does, because it's fairly rare. Anyway, let's move on here. We've got a couple of these. I have nowhere to put all this junk. Here, we'll just put it down in puppy territory. I've got one of these white cardboard envelopes here. Let's see what this one is. It's an advanced copy of something. My, what is this? Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, comes out at the end of November, and it is by Nina McLaughlin, and it is called Wake Siren, Ovid Resung. And it has a curious amalgamation of mythologies there. We have greenery, we have snakes, and we have an owl. So it's not quite Medusa. Who is it? Let's see. I'm delighted to share with you the, quote, vital, vivid, and angry, that's according to Kirkus Reviews, which gave it a starred review, a retelling of Ovid's Metamorphoses. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, goodness gracious. The author of the critically acclaimed memoir Hammerhead, McLaughlin turns to some of our most foundational stories from Ovid's epic poem and gives voice to their female protagonists in this powerful new work. Seductresses and she-monsters, nymphs and demigoddesses populate the myths of the Metamorphoses, but what happens when the women fleeing her rape tells the story of the chase? When the beloved coolly returns the seducer's gaze, when tales of monstrous transfiguration are sung by those transformed. The prose, both mythic and modern, Wake Siren revisits each account of love, loss, rape, revenge, and change. It lays bare the violence that undergirds and lurks in the heart of Ovid's narratives, stories that help build and perpetuate the distorted portrayal of women across centuries of art and literature. Okay. All right. Okay, Nina McLaughlin is the author of the acclaimed memoir Hammerhead. She is formerly an editor at the Boston Phoenix, which was a great independent newspaper that Boston had for a long time, did wonderful work. And she is a book columnist for the Boston Globe and has written for publications including the Paris Review Daily, The Believer, and the Los Angeles Review of Books, plus Wall Street Journal, Book Slut, The Daily Beast, Cosmopolitan, Huffington Post. Okay, so she's a book columnist for the Boston Globe. I've known a couple of those in my time. And here she gives us Ovid Resung, and you can sense my ambivalence. It comes from a few different places. Number one, of course, is something I've mentioned on this channel many times before, which is that Ovid's Metamorphoses is my single favorite book of them all. Not just ancient Greek and Roman classics, but all books. It is my number one favorite book. And The second reservation comes from that last bit. The book revisits each account of loss, love, rape, revenge, and change. It lays bare the violence that undergirds and lurks in the hearts of Ovid's narratives, stories that helped build and perpetuate the distorted portrayal of women across centuries of art and literature. That last sentence gives me a cold chill up my spine because I am perfectly willing to read a new, quasi-fictional take on a pastiche of Ovid. I'm perfectly willing to do that. But I am not at all willing, even for a single second, to entertain, to endure anyone, be they a Boston Globe book columnist or not, telling me that I have been wrong to enjoy the Metamorphoses all these years. Or that anyone has. Or that everyone has. That 2,000 years of readers have been wrong to enjoy it. The idea that seems to be lurking, and again, this is just the pub sheet, it's not the book. I'm going to go into the book with a huge amount of enthusiasm because it's about my favorite book. But the idea lurking behind that sentence in the pub sheet is the same mistaken idea that leads people to say that video games promote violence in the real world. And other nonsense like that. Ovid's Metamorphoses has not been responsible for a single rape, nor a single bit of violence towards women. Not a single instance. People are responsible for those instances, not Ovid's Metamorphoses. But we will see. We will see. I confess, I hate to say it because I loved the author's previous book, but I hate to say it, but I confess I had that problem with Circe by Madeline Miller. The book previous to that I absolutely loved, sang its praises in print. Circe was also brilliantly written, but it struck me as at least as much an admonition as a work of art, and that I couldn't get away from that on the page. I don't so much mind if that's in the author's mind, but it was also on the page. I couldn't get away from it in the book, and it's sullied the reading experience for me, and I worry that the same thing is going to happen here, that it's in fact an identical kind of book. We shall see. We shall see. It's a little bit further out, so I will probably wait a bit on it. I just today did my September books. I have a bookshelf over on the other side of the room that has all of the forthcoming books broken down by month. And the current month is on top, and we're in the middle of August now, and I've got a lot of reviews to do for other venues. I'm not sure, and I've also got a lot of reviews coming in for Open Letters Review. Keep in mind, if you want to be one of those reviews, feel free to email me. I'm at st.donahue@gmail. Feel free to email me about anything, of course, your dogs, but if you email me about your dogs, I want pictures. Okay? Or about the state of your own personal book collection, but again, I want pictures. I get emails about everything now, everything under the sun, aches and pains, problems with relatives, relationship advice, all kinds of stuff. We have great fun. But originally, I gave out my email on this channel to encourage you to think about book reviewing for an audience rather than for a website, rather than for the commercial benefit of Goodreads or Amazon or whatever. And I still do. I still encourage you to do that. But I have reviews in I guess what we could call the pipeline. So I looked at August the other day and I realized, okay, well, there's no reason for you to keep 100 books on August shelf, because there's no chance on earth you're going to review 100 books in the days left in August. You have 2 weeks left in August. So what I did today, it's a little bit early. Usually I wait until the end of the month to do this, but September is so huge that I was running out of places to put September's books. With the top shelf, I can just pile them to the ceiling. So today I did that. I went through the August top shelf and I pulled out the maximum number of books that I absolutely want to review. And I made a separate stack of those on the other side of the room, and then I moved up September's books, and it's monstrous. It's just monstrous. So I'm going to be concentrating on September. I'm not going to read a November book, even if it is an Ovid pastiche novel, but I will get to it. I will do it soon. Okay, this next one is going to be a September book. I just know it. Yes, it is. Okay. All right, this is by Gilbert Gall. I think we saw this already. This is The Geography of Risk. Epic storms, rising seas, and the cost of America's coasts. The costliest hurricanes in United States history have all occurred in the past 2 decades, but who bears the financial brunt of these monster storms? In recent years, we've read much about the threats posed by increasingly severe superstorms. Explanations of the climate science behind them, reckonings with what major urban areas may look like underwater, and dissections of the politics that led to deregulation of the fossil fuel industry. The skyrocketing economic impact of our changing weather patterns remains less explored. And as two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Gilbert Gall shows us in The Geography of Risk, the numbers are not only astounding in and of themselves, but they also lay bare a deeper story, how more than half a century of bad decisions left us with trillions of dollars of property in dangerous coastal floodplains and left federal taxpayers paying the damage to expensive vacation homes. Wow. Okay, won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. That's pretty impressive. Okay, so this comes out in early September. I have to put this on the pile up there and get to it right away. But of course, that is true. In fact, this picture shows it clearly, right? Okay, the cover photograph is not identified, but I think I know. I think that's the Jersey Shore. I think that's Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, and in the case of the hurricane that hit New Jersey when Chris Christie was governor, and the footage on YouTube is just unbelievable. It destroyed a huge amount of property because these houses had been built right up to the water, and there was a huge fight about federal disaster relief money. There was a vast amount of money. That money ultimately came from all sorts of people who don't live in New Jersey, who've never set foot in New Jersey, and who never are going to set foot in New Jersey. And when the state of New Jersey got that huge amount of money, there was a lot of public servant pride in various elected officials, including Chris Christie himself, if I'm not mistaken, getting in front of cameras and proudly saying, we're going to rebuild those houses right where they were. We're not going to let nature defeat us. Which is, if I had been an official in the Department of Natural Disasters or whatever, if I had been the dispersing official, I would have called the governor right away and demanded my money back. You're going to build exactly where you were, exactly where these houses were destroyed, and that happens often. Oh my, does it happen often. And that's not even taking into account the stupid short-term risks that you can see if you just go on Google image search and call up a picture of the houses on the water in Miami. They are literally on the water. There's like an inch or two. One major storm hitting the heart of Miami would do billions and billions of dollars of damage. And Florida doesn't have the money to cover that. That's going to come from the national pocketbook. And the national pocketbook doesn't come from some fantasy land. It comes from all the other states. But, I'm sure that if he's won 2 Pulitzer Prizes, I'm sure this author knows what he's doing. But I'm sure that he's going to deal with the fact that it's not just the coast. I mean, droughts especially is going to be a major problem. I guarantee you in another year or 2 at the most, instead of hearing all this time in all the news cycles about California's super fires, we're going to hear about droughts. And when you hear about droughts and crop flattening superstorms in the American Midwest, where 1/2 of all the world's produce is grown, believe me, it's going to make more of an impact on the news than super fires in California, where the only time that it bumps the latest tawdry scandal off the front lines is if a fire is approaching the pool of Hollywood star's trophy home. Or when the President of the United States goes to survey the damage and says that the forest needed to be better raked and then misidentifies the name of the town that was devastated. But if the Midwest starts to lose huge swaths of food, you'll hear about it a lot more. And there'll be nothing that can be done. So, anyway, I have the advanced copy of this. I am going to get to this right away. I've been promising that for all of these, I know. Let's see here. Oh, okay, great. All right. This is a new Library of America volume. This is the complete poems of Herman Melville for a bicentennial anniversary. Do I remember that correctly? Yes, Melville was born 200 years ago in 1819. And his trilogy of South Sea novels, Omu, Typee, and Mardi, were collected in the very first Library of America volume. Oh, wow. Published in 1982. Good Lord. The Library of America started in 1982. Now the Library of America marks the Melville bicentennial with the complete poems, edited by Herschel Parker, who did the great 2-volume biography of Melville. Uh, all right. Herman, keep in mind, I am reading from the cell sheet here. This is not my opinion, nor is it the opinion of any other sober individual anywhere in the world or in the history of the world. I suspect Herschel Parker's hand in the writing of this. Are you ready? Herman Melville ranks with Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson as one of the 3 greatest American poets of the 19th century. Okay. All right. Whether meditating on the bloody battlefields of the Civil War, the mysteries of faith and doubt in the Holy Land, or the strange relationship between the Maldive shark and the pilot fish that glides before it, Melville's verse combines precise physical detail and rich metaphysical speculation in an unorthodox style, I'll say. And with a compressed power uniquely his own. All right. Well, okay. Okay. So this is an August book. Thank God, in his heaven. This is not a September book, but still. It's worth a review, definitely. I don't know what to do with that claim. That's Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, and Herman Melville. Okay. All right. Let's move on here. We'll center these books so they don't go flying. We have a couple of compressed envelopes here to tear into. That they never open cleanly. They're designed so that they don't open cleanly. See, look at this. That's what they look like. That's what it has to look like a bomb went off inside it. Okay, this is the finished copy of a book we saw already. We saw it already. This comes out in early September. Oh my God! This is The Force, the legendary Special Ops Unit and World War II's Mission Impossible. This is by Saul David, and it is yet another World War II keyhole history, like we've seen so many of here. And this is about the first special service force from which the special forces today originate. Simply known as the Force, and to the Germans as the Black Devils, they were an elite commando unit in World War II made up of Americans and Canadians. To date, the only unified military unit between the two countries. Their backgrounds varied from lumberjacks to forest rangers, hunters, woodsmen, games wardens, prospectors, and explorers, but their fortitude to overcome the high call of any mission on any terrain united them. And this is their story. And one particular mission that a chunk of the book will be about them, and then there's a large chunk of the book will be about the one mission, the Mission Impossible that they went on. And I've had the advance copy, and I haven't got to it. So I need to pay September scrupulous attention. Now we have, another one. This one doesn't want to be opened at all. I have actually had these. See, they're adhesive on the inside. So, and I've actually had these things be so reluctant. I don't think it's ever happened on camera here in this channel, but I've had these things be so reluctant that by the time I was done ripping my way into them, I had completely destroyed the book inside them. And when that happens, of course, I'm aggrieved, and I always want to just get the person who did that on the phone and say, put it in an envelope. Put it in a paper envelope. But I guess this is probably done automatically, right? These are vacuum sealed. They're probably just on some sort of conveyor belt. But anyway, what have we got here? Oh, it's a romance. It's a contemporary romance. It's by Helena Hunting. I think we saw her before. What did we see by... Oh, we did Shacking Up was one by her. This is called Handle with Care. And the little tagline on the cover is Too Hot to Touch. So which is it? So this is Handle with Care. It's a contemporary romance. Are you going to be September? No, late August. Good. Okay. This scandal-filled novel brings together a moody CEO who wants nothing more than to lose his high-stress responsibilities with driven woman who's trying to hold it together the most. Between his parents' messed-up marriage and his narcissistic younger brother, Lincoln Moorhead, this is a family channel, so I shall refrain, has spent the majority of his life avoiding his family. Moorhead doesn't sound like an Irish name. After the death of his father, Lincoln tells himself in the middle finds himself in the middle of the drama. To top it all off, he's been named CEO of Moorhead Media, much to his brother's chagrin. But Lincoln's bad attitude softens when he meets the no-nonsense, gorgeous woman who has been given the task of transforming him from a gruff wilderness guy to suave businessman. Oh, yeah, that does sound fun. That does sound fun. A kind of Pygmalion story, a kind of My Fair Lady story, only with the gender roles swapped. That does sound like fun. Okay, that's a contemporary romance, and it's right around the corner. It's August 27th, so it goes on the August pile that I just mentioned. And now we have another one of these things. Let's hope that whatever's inside survives the destruction of the package. These things are, like I mentioned, they're adhesive on the inside, so you opening the package and getting what's in it out is not the end of what you have to do. You also have to tear it apart, otherwise it's going to stick to everything. So what do we got here? Oh, it's another romance. It's another romance. All right, so this is also late August. This is How to Love a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Byrne, who's also her name also is familiar to me. What has she done? I think I've read 2 or 3 of hers, but the last one that she did was The Duke with the Dragon Tattoo, which I rather liked. It had elements in it that you don't usually see in one of these modern Regency romances. Demi-monde elements. Love takes no prisoners in this new gripping historical romance. Oh, wow. Famed and brilliant, Lady Alexandra Lane has always known how to look out for herself, but nobody would ever expect that she has darkness in her past. Darkness in her past. That she pays... there's some errors in this thing, but that's all right, we'll forge on. One that she pays a blackmailer to keep buried. Now, with her family nearing bankruptcy, Alexandra strikes on a solution. Get married to one of the Empire's most wealthy, eligible bachelors, even if he does have the reputation of a devil. And that bachelor is Piers Gedrick Atherton, the Duke of Redmayne. And he's seeking revenge, and the first step is securing a bride. Okay, so this comes out in the end of August. First in a new series, How to Love a Duke in 10 Days. Something about that mention of the Empire. Is this a Regency? Or is this set in Victorian times? Oh, good Lord. This is a Victorian romance, not a Regency at all. Okay, great. I don't know if it'll make much of a difference, but this also comes out in late August, so that's 2 romances just about the same time. They both go on the August pile. Okay, and then we've got 2 boxes. So we'll do the thin one first, and then we'll finish with the one that cannot displease. It cannot displease. So what is this? What is this first one? Okay, it's from Oxford University Press. Okay, it's from Oxford University Press. It is by Thomas Balcerski, who's an assistant professor of history at Eastern Connecticut State University. Good for him getting a job, a contract with Oxford. And despite the fact that it comes out from Oxford University Press, it's American political minutia. So it's bosom friends, the intimate world of James Buchanan and William Rufus King. Most Americans will not know either one of those names, even though one of them was president. The friendship of Bachelor politicians President James Buchanan and Vice President William Rufus King has long fascinated historians and caused much speculation. Why did neither marry? Might they have been gay? Or was their relationship a 19th century version of the modern day bromance? In this book, the author explores the lives of the 2 politicians and discovers one of the most significant collaborations in American political history. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. A serious book on the Buchanan presidency. That's great. Ultimately, this book suggests, through a thorough investigation into the personal and political nature of their friendship, that the surviving evidence neither supports a definitive assessment of either man's sexuality nor the occurrence of a sexual relationship between the 2. Instead, the author argues that their relationship conformed to an observable pattern of intimate male friendship prevalent in the first half of the 19th century. And not just in the first half of the 19th century either, all the way until, I would argue, World War I. I think World War I is what ended it. But even in the 1890s. I mean, this is what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with well, this is Buchanan, so it will be uh, it will be a long time ago. It'll be but even in the 1890s and the 19 teens, the 19 single digits and whatnot, it was perfectly acceptable. It was completely common for male friends, if they went out to meet each other for lunch, to hold hands on the table. It was completely common for them to, if usually the pattern was that you'd go for a dinner like in Boston or New York, and then you would walk for a bit after dinner. You would walk in the park, the nearest boulevard or whatnot. Completely common for them to walk arm in arm. That was absolutely, no one thought anything about it until, I would argue, the 20th century was well underway. So it's entirely possible. It's often that iconography, that way of expressing male to male affection and interest and friendship in, for instance, letters and also in photographs, has led to an enormous amount of unfounded speculation about sexual relations, when actually it was just a fashion. That's all. It was just a style. Theodore Roosevelt. No one's ever accused him of being gay. And all when he was in Albany, all the time. That's all. Just if I want to talk with someone, or I want to have a serious talk out on the sidewalk, we link arm in arm, and we walk that way. If I'm meeting a bosom friend, we do that. So I'm hoping that this author maybe just cuts through all that, because it would be a little depressing to give it more weight than it deserves. It doesn't deserve any weight at all. Unless you have passionate letters declaring a physical relationship, you can just automatically assume there was not one, because the fashion simulates it. But anyway, did I say when this comes out? This comes out in September. So this is a September book. This is yet another September book. Okay, and then we have the last thing, which is a box, and this box has no mysteries, because it has that. that means Harlequin romance, and Harlequin romance is always good. There's always good news. So let's see. Now, baby, you have had everything that I've thrown to you, and you haven't touched any of it. Here, that's a box for you. There you go. Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. All right, this is not a romance. This is not a romance. It's the same overarching publisher arm, so probably the person involved just had the Harlequin box near to hand. But this is actually very good. This is Sean Parnell. This is Man of War. The first of his adventures of Eric Steele. We saw All Out War, the new hardcover, which comes out in early September. We saw that the other day. And when I was talking... Excuse me. When I was talking about that book with his publicist, I noticed that there was one previous book in the series that introduces the character. Ordinarily, I wouldn't care if it's 10 books in a series or whatever. I take the 11th one and let the author let the chips fall where they may. But if there's only one previous book, I might want to read it first. So I asked, if there's a chance that you have the first book, a copy lying around, feel free to send it, and here it is. So this is the first Eric Steele adventure, in which we are told Eric Steele is the best of the best. An alpha, an operative in the unit known simply as the Program. Yeah, I'm going to want to read this before I read the second one. Okay, fantastic. All right, great. So there you go. That is our last mail haul of the week. Sorry for the length of the video here. So we have The Force, World War II keyhole history. We have The Geography of Risk, about the increasing risk of superstorms in America and who foots the bill. We have Bosom Friends, about Rufus King and James Buchanan. Let's see here. We have The Complete Poems of Herman Melville, the newest Library of America volume. We have Apartment by Teddy Wayne, which will be his novel in the new year. We have Wake Siren, sort of a pastiche of Ovid's Metamorphoses that centers on all the female characters. The poem is absolutely full of female characters. We have Loss Adjustment, a memoir of a mother who lost her daughter to suicide. We have Man of War by Sean Parnell, the first in a new series. We have Handle with Care, a contemporary romance, sort of she has the job of remaking her boss. And How to Love a Duke in 10 Days, which is a historical romance, but a Victorian era historical romance, not a Regency era. Don't think it'll make much difference, but it is an interesting variation. And there you go. That's our last mail haul of the week. It's the only video you're going to get today. Of course, today has been just swamped with writing, and also with large amounts of time spent with the bean. but I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll chat then. Thank you, BookTube.